The Amalek is able to fester, to exist, and to grow, and to enter the minds of the Jewish people, then there's going to be suffix, there's going to be doubt, there's going to be confusion, there's going to be chet, and there's going to be a need for karbanis to rectify that. The whole point of the karbanis is to transform the reality of Vikar for the Jew back into the reality of Vikra. A person who's living with the reality of Vikra and not Vikar, which unfortunately today is so much of the Jewish people, then there won't be a need for the word of Gog and Magog as long as, if we're living the level of Vikra. The level of Vikar means there has to be a word of Gog and Magog. It means there has to be something in the world to wake the Jewish people up to bring them back to Hashem. So karbanos do that. When there was a base of mikdash, a person woke up and realized they made a mistake, or just stam the karbanos, the mincha offering, the toda offering, whatever we brought to connect us to Kodesh Baruch Hu. The whole point of the karbanos was to make people real with life, but primarily to make them real with the connection between man and God. We don't have it today, so we say it. Tefillah, it's all been come this, but you see, tefillah becomes. How many cell phones go off in the course of a tefillah and Shemona Esrei and disturbances because people aren't real with Vayikra. They are the Ema that creates this unity that Yaakov spoke about is supposed to be in tefillah itself. When you daven in a real serious meaning, when people understand what tefillah is about, they understand the connection of the words and the oreganus and all these things combined together. That's the sod the Gra is talking about. That's the connection. Amalek comes to attack the connection between man and God. And that's what he means. He divides the name between Yud K and Vav K, because Yud K is the overt expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world, and Vav K is the HaKadosh Baruch Hu working b'derech teva. And he wants to separate them, meaning he wants it to be that people don't connect the events of history back to Hashem. And there goes the awe, and therefore there goes the unity as well, right? And that's what Mitzrayim was all about. That's why this Parsha is so perfect for the Hachana, the preparations for Pesach, not just the cleaning itself, but the whole concept of Cherus. Because as Chazal point out, the gematria of the word Adam is equal to the word Geula, which means redemption. And if you take the Aleph, the same Aleph out of Adam, you're left with the word Dam, right? Which is why intelligent people can be so dumb sometimes, right? Because without the Aleph, you mistake reality completely. The Ruach Shtus enters the person. But the word Dam is blood, meaning the physical reality of man. The Aleph is always an allusion to Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Aluf of all Alufim, right? The chief of all chiefs, the number one, Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. So therefore the Aleph represents the Neshama. And the Chazal point out, the Medrash points out, when after Adam was taken to name all the animals on the first day of creation, Hashem said, what are you going to call them? And he gave them names. And the Torah says, whatever he called them, that was their name. That was what he called them. That was their name. That's the most obvious thing in the world. Now, the Medrash is telling you that he had the capacity to look into the being of each of these animals and understand their essence and give them a name that was descriptive of that essence, because that's what Hebrew words do. Hebrew words are not only a conventional naming of something, but they represent the whole concept. So when you use the word itself, you can understand what the concept actually is. So Kodesh Baruch Hu comes and says to Adam Arishon at the end of all this naming process, now what are you going to call yourself? So Adam does, self-psychotherapy and looks into the essence of who he is and says, I'll call myself Adam, for two reasons. One, because it was taken from the Adamah, the ground itself, and that will always be a reminder of my humble beginnings. And the second reason is because I'm a composite. I'm a composite of Dam, the physical reality of the goof, the body itself, right, which tends to take up too much of the picture. When I look in the mirror, I see my physical body, I get hungry, I have desires, I have cravings, right? The body demands a lot of attention, like a child, like a baby who cries the entire time until you forget yourself. The body's like that. So the Aleph is a reminder that really inside me is my neshama, my soul. And I have to feed both and take care of both. And an Adam is somebody who's perfectly balanced between the Aleph and the Dam. And that's the whole avodas Hashem. That's the whole avodah of an individual in this world. That's what it means to be a Tzelem Elokim. You're made B'Tzelem Elokim, and you act like somebody made in the image of God when you are being an Adam. And you're in Geula. And you're free. Because freedom begins and ends in the head. in the mind. It's all conceptual. The physical enslavement is just the end result of that whole intellectual process. So, take the aleph out of a dam, or dam, meaning just the physical component. A total secular, materialistic society as the world has become, as the Western world is dumb in many respects. A lot of great stuff, intelligent things, but a lot of big mistakes because the world pursues the dumb aspect of it, forgetting about the soul to such an extent that people get up there and actually talk about the fact there is no soul. They deny the soul completely. Intelligent people, supposedly. Professors question the whole concept, is there a soul, is there not? They're using the very soul that God gave them to speak to say they have no soul. So therefore, in Mitzrayim, right, the first makah, the first plague that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave in Mitzrayim to set the process off of the transformation of Klal Yisrael is Makah's dam, the plague of blood, to say what? Look what you've become. This is what it means to live on Mem Teshay Tumah. It means to live as a physical being alone. Like the chamor, the donkey. You're down to a level of existence of the Egyptian where it's all about satisfying physical pleasure and forgetting about the soul. So therefore, the first makah Mitzrayim was to increase the aleph. It was to build the aleph. The whole point of the makos in Mitzrayim and the preparation for Geula was to enlarge the aleph. The moment you could transform the dam into Adam with the aleph, which happens by makos Becharis, Memela, you're in Geula. Because take the aleph out of Geula and you have the word Gola. Gola is somebody who's in exile. And that's not a coincidence. That's a message. That's the Torah teaching you that it all comes down to the aleph. This small, tiny little aleph in this week's Parsha, which happens to be the aleph of Kisei HaKavod, which Amalek attacks to reduce by making us become material and forget about the connection between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not being real with Hashgacha Pratis. It's all one and the same thing. And the Seder, right? Normally when people celebrate their freedom, they have a party, a big party. Every year they have a big party. And they get drunk to forget who they are. Not the Jewish people. The Jewish people sit down to a Seder table and to a Haggadah and to an evening of Divrei Torah. They're supposed to go as long as it possibly can. Harim Meshubach. If a person goes, the longer you go, the more you talk about Yitzis Mitzrayim. Harim Meshubach, the more praiseworthy you are because you're building the aleph. The whole point of the Seder is to build the aleph, to get back in this Vayikra business, to move away from the Yikar. Right? The Jewish people began the Ganai because it all begins with the Avodah Zarah, which is the Yikar. It's not a real connection. The Gemara, the Yerushalmi in Brachas says that Avodah Zarah is that which seems close but is really quite far. And Avodah Hashem is just the opposite. It seems quite far away, it's really quite close. Meaning it's the real thing. It's the aleph. And that's what we're here to do. And that's what the Parsha starts off with. About Kirfus, coming close to Kodesh Baruch Hu Karbanis. All comes down to the small little aleph, which all comes down to building up the intellect, the sod, Baznei Yeshua, getting to a point where a person is so real with the hand of Hashem in everyday life that Amalek can't get in. There's no suffix, there's no doubt. Such a person can hang on until the end of history. Such a person, their mood is not shaken no matter what happens. They're always close to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and they're protected. And for such a person, Nisim and the flows take place. And for such a person, redemption is an everyday reality. That's what the Parsha is talking about. That's what the Shalach was talking about. That's what the Aleph represents. That's the fulfillment of the Tzem Elokim. That is the doorway, the threshold to freedom. We should all merit to be able to see that, open that door, walk across that threshold, and go to freedom forever.